Weekends are made for listening at KCAA News Talk 1050 on your AM dial.
Well, welcome to the second episode of Two Sides with Erin and Tobin. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are here to talk about everything in politics. Local, state, national, everything in between.
A lot going on this last week.
So hope you all are doing well on this Saturday morning and staying out of the heat and weird weather that we've been having with all of the rain, which is so strange. Aren't we on the edge of a desert?
And the flooding. I mean, they've had to rescue people from all this crazy flash flooding
in
that's
the
been going
summer.
on. In August.
In August, for crying out loud.
And it's over 100 degrees out, too.
Yeah, well, and we've always had over 100-degree weather in August. It's really not news, but the fact that it's been so humid, I feel like I'm in Texas.
Welcome home.
Exactly. Although there's not enough trucks and definitely not enough American flags flying around.
Oh, my goodness.
So let's jump right in. You've been doing some research on Paul Ryan's Medicare plan, and there's a lot of scare tactics. I mean, Paul Ryan is going to be driving Granny off a cliff. So
Scare tactics is exactly the right way to describe this. I was shocked when I went on the Barack Obama website, and you can't find anything positive about the Barack Obama plan. In fact, you can't really find the Barack Obama plan, but you can find tons of stuff that just rip Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney to shreds. And so, I'm just shocked at the level of negativity in this campaign. And how is a voter supposed to get educated about what both of these two sides really want to do when all you hear from both sides really is just the negative spin? So
what is the Ryan plan?
Well, as best I can tell, okay, and again, I'm still learning too, that basically he said that Medicare is going to go bankrupt, and we've been hearing this from the time we were young children, how government spending and these entitlement programs are costing us a fortune, and we can't afford them. We've been hearing about our government borrowing all this money. And
yeah, 40 cents on every dollar is borrowed now,
yeah,
which is unfathomable to me.
So Paul Ryan has said, we've got to do something responsible about that. And so the first thing he did was he said we can't punish or harm the people that are already in the Medicare system or those that are about to go in the Medicare system. So he set the age of 55 as sort of the limit. And so anyone who's over 55 is safe. They're going to be in Medicare the way it is. Nothing changes for them. But it's the people that are younger than 55, which is actually our generation.
Oh, goody.
It's Generation X that are going to be asked to be a little more responsible.
Now, Paul Ryan is the first Gen X politician, or somebody, not politician, but first Gen Xer to reach that level.
Yeah, if he's elected vice president, he'll be the first person from our generation to be up in that level in the executive suite there at the White House. But basically what it's going to ask is that people from our generation, people that are younger than 55, will be given a choice. They can either continue with Medicare as it is, or they can get money that they can then use to purchase health insurance on the market and hopefully look for a better deal.
So, because right now the way health insurance is set up is that Medicare is prime. So when you turn 65, you have to go into Medicare and buy a supplemental insurance. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Will that change?
No. Basically, you're still going to, at 65, you're still going to be put into the Medicare system, but you'll have two options. You'll either have the old option, which is you just get what Medicare offers, which is going to be reduced because the amount of money that they're going to get is going to be reduced, or you can be given essentially like a voucher, although Paul Ryan's plan doesn't use the word voucher, that you can then go. And
that's the Dems, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's the Democrats, they're going to, it's like a voucher system for your health, and they're going to put you out on the street, and grandma's going to fall off a cliff, and all that stuff.
But the idea is that you now have the choice. You can decide what you want or what you need, so that you're not spending your money on things that don't make sense for you. So, if you've got a particular type of health issue or area that you feel the money would be better spent, you can choose what fits your needs.
Okay, but the Obama campaign is saying that the voucher program is what they're calling it, will raise health care costs up. They'll increase it by $6,350 a year.
Yeah.
So where did that number come from?
I'm not sure exactly where that number came from. Again, this is from the Obama website is what you're looking at.
I am. Well, it's two sides, so
yeah. Well,
I'm going to challenge you a little bit.
Well, good. Well, that's where I went and looked this morning too, and I was shocked by that number because if you look at the flip side, and we're not getting the true cost yet of what Obamacare is going to cost, but what the Obama plan does, or at least what I've heard from the left, is that by instituting Obamacare, that's going to reduce the cost for Medicare. But Obamacare is going to require an increase in taxes and spending. It's a whole new level of entitlement. And so to go out and say that that's going to save money, it's
it defies logic. I have to admit, that does defy logic. We're going to spend a whole bunch more for entitlement programs, but you're going to save money. Really? How is that possible?
Yeah, we're going to have 32 million new people on, getting health care for free, and all these new benefits included, and it's not going to cost anything.
Okay, but let me ask you this. There's a lot of people who don't have insurance. I mean, and they think, I'm not going to go to the doctor because I don't have the money. It'll bankrupt me. And even though I'm really sick, and, people will say, well, yes, they're still covered. If they go to a hospital, they'll still get care. But either they'll have to file for bankruptcy because they can't cover the bills, or some other really horrible choice. So what about those who don't have health insurance? Because they need some sort of coverage. I mean, our system, okay, you don't like Obamacare, but our system is broken. So what do we do?
I agree. And I'm not sure that there's a really good answer to this. Obamacare basically is a giant shift of wealth from the healthy working people to people who are poorer, maybe not working, who have more health issues. And on the one hand, I have a lot of sympathy for people that are in that situation. But on the other hand, how do you balance that out so that you don't just now incentivize people to not work, to say, well, I don't have to because someone else is going to pay it for me. And so that's the moral hazard of this system.
Right.
And so I think that you have to still have some level of buy-in for people, even at the lowest end, that they're going to have to pay something out of pocket, and you can't just tell them, oh, the rich people are going to cover this for you. That just doesn't.
It doesn't fly.
It doesn't fly.
Well, and I will say, I mean, we've talked about this on the morning shows, and I will talk about it here. I feel strongly that a true market solution should have been tried first.
I agree.
And when I say a true market solution, right now, there are about 5 insurance companies that Californians can choose from, but 5 is not, give me a break. That's not an open market.
Yeah.
We should be able to buy insurance across state lines and be able to build the insurance program that we want. I mean, to buy, say you're buying a full HMO program, you're buying lots of insurance that you don't need, insurance that you'll never use. And so why can't I pick what I want, And young people, the chances are, except for maybe young women who might get pregnant, but chances are most young people, if they get sick, it's going to be something major. So, they're where they would need insurance, big insurance. I'm not talking about shots and colds and things like that. I'm talking a car accident or cancer. So why not give them, why don't they have the ability to buy an insurance program that they can get like their physicals and get, be able to go to the doctor for colds and flu, and then be able to go if there's something catastrophic, because the catastrophic care is really what they need. They don't need coverage for all this stuff that they won't use.
Well, one of the challenges I think we have with our current healthcare system is that most of the costs are hidden. Most employees don't bear the cost. That a lot of it's picked up by their employer,
right?
And
right.
They just pay a small copay, and you have people that overuse the system. For in certain instances, and then other people who get no access to the system, and because people are disconnected from the cost of what they're getting, the cost of those services, you don't get a real market reaction.
Right.
For a market to work, you've got to really know what you're buying.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, and let's be fair here. We say that I don't want to pay for somebody who won't pay for their own insurance, but we are already paying. I mean, they increase the cost of whatever services you get at the doctor, especially if you need surgery, you go to an emergency room, and you find that a Band-Aid cost you $1,500, and they do that because they have to cover the cost. Hospitals have to be able to pay their employees, so they have to cover the cost of people who cannot afford their medical care.
I remember for me, the big wake-up call on healthcare was when you were pregnant and gave birth to our first child, our son, and we got the itemized list of the cost for everything. And we're paying $300 for the little water bottle that you had next to the bed.
Yes.
And so they charge these outrageous fees on small things to cover the costs of other people and other things that are going on in the hospital. There's no way that little plastic bottle actually cost $300.
It didn't cost $3. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
So, so let's swing this back around and the quote-unquote voucher system, let's all be scared, is actually, it turns the medical care seeker into an actual consumer again, because it gives them the power to say, hold up, I'm not paying $300 for that water bottle, whereas, and for us, I have to tell you, back to when we were having that first child, we had terrible insurance. So as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I started making payments to the hospital in anticipation of giving birth. If you get in a car accident, you can't plan. If you get cancer, you can't plan. So the system is broken without a question.
Yeah.
But I have to say that this demonized quote unquote voucher system is appealing to me because it puts the power back in the hands of the consumer.
I agree. But I'll tell you, one of the other aspects of this whole debate that's been very frustrating to me is the way it pits people against each other. And we've seen this throughout the campaign.
Right.
And I'm going to put this back on the president, because I think that his whole campaign has been divide and conquer. But this latest round of divide and conquer has been about pitting the young against the old.
Right.
And our generation, Generation X, is really going to have to step up here. And we grew up hearing about all of this spending and how some future generation was going to have to pay
And we
that
always
bill.
knew it was us.
Yeah, well, it's us. It's us. And
Some future generation.
but
like the one behind the baby boomers.
but it's us and our children.
Yes.
And this is where it gets real emotional for me, because I refuse to make my kids pay for the bad decisions of the generations that came before. So
I agree.
I'm willing. I think you see a lot of people from Generation X that are willing to step in that gap and say, you know what, we're going to pay a little higher taxes in our lifetime. We're going to see reduced services in our lifetime, because we've got to get our country back on this right fiscal track that says we're going to stop the borrowing and we're going to do it the right way.
But let's talk about taxes with some sanity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want taxes going into some black hole and we're still borrowing 40 cents on every dollar. That just makes me crazy. And when Reagan was governor of California, and Reagan has become this demigod in the Republican Party, and I know that we're fans as well.
Did you name your daughter Reagan?
Yeah, we named our daughter Reagan. Anyway, the thing about it is he raised taxes when he became governor of California, but with that we got incredible infrastructure improvements.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem if I can see that the dollars that my tax dollars going for something that visibly improves the state of the United States. So I resent increased spending. And the state of California, since the Reagan era, actually since the Pete Wilson era, has had a nasty, nasty habit of when there's increased revenue, they just spend like it's a party, and then it never comes back down.
And you never see some long-term tangible result from it.
You don't.
One of the great talking points of the Romney campaign is the discussion about the stimulus that was passed by Barack Obama. And point to the one big project, the one big thing you could say, this is what we got for all of that money.
There's no Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
There's no Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
There's nothing substantive that came from that. It was just a stopgap measure. The money got sucked up by the unions, and I'm a union member.
Yep.
But it was money that sucked up to kept some jobs. And the problem is that they didn't begin making those cuts that needed to happen,
Right.
those reductions. They just used that money to keep the status quo, and so it just delayed when the actual pain of the recession was going to hit. And that's why the recession is lingering instead of going away.
Right.
It's really sad.
And I think that George W. Bush, that I don't want to put all the blame on the current president. George W. Bush, when 9/11 happened, had a choice. It's a consumer-driven economy, so he made the decision that people needed to continue spending, because that was the engine that made our economy grow. I wish, however, that he had stood up there and said, times have changed, ladies and gentlemen. We all need to work together and put together a war effort like they had in World War II.
Yeah.
At that time, American people would have planted their victory garden.
We would have sacrificed
for the good of our nation, because we were attacked. And I think that opportunity was squandered.
Big missed opportunity.
I agree. So
Paul Ryan, though, if you go back to the Paul Ryan plan, I think that's a real opportunity now. You actually have someone who's standing up and saying, you know what, as a nation, we have to be more sensible, more reasonable. We have to work together to solve these problems like Medicare. And the fact that Romney selected him says that that's where Romney's heart is as well.
I feel very strongly that we now have two adults in the room.
Yep.
Two people who are willing to stand up and say, guys, it's time for hard choices. And we're going to lead, not lead from behind. We're going to lead you into fiscal prosperity again.
Amen.
So we'll be back. We're headed to a break, and you're listening to Two Sides with Erin and Tobin.